Welcome to the Grove, home of Halesowen Town Football Club. This film is dedicated to the memory of Harry Rudge, Mr Halesowen Town, as he was known by so many. Harry dedicated his life to running Halesowen Town Football Club. Times were hard, cash was in short supply often, numbers were few, but Harry persevered, watching local sides gain glory and promotion to higher leagues, awaiting his big chance. No one in football deserves success more than Harry Rudge, and his long awaiting was realised in the mid and late 80s. 3 Wembley appearances, numerous local cups, promotion to the Midland Division of the Southern League, and finally promotion to the Premier Division of the Southern League. Harry's golden years. The film you're about to see takes us behind the scenes, including clippings of those golden years, along with interviews of people we do not normally see. Boot boy, gate men, catering, commercial activities, and many other personnel, all involved in making 90 minutes of football happen, including you, our supporters. Thank you to all those involved in helping to make this film, especially to Paul Bate of PB Videos, who was responsible for making the whole thing happen. I should also like to thank Richard Stevens for his invaluable help and support. Now, sit back, relax, let your minds wander back, and remember the wonderful times that we have had and are also having at Halesowen Town Football Club. We are grateful to those generations of the past, especially to Harry Rudge, H, never to be forgotten.
Halesowen Town Football Club is one of the oldest in the country, having been formed in 1873, and as far as records show, they have always played at the Grove. The first competition of any standing the club played in was the Birmingham Combination, and they remained members of that league until 1939, but without winning any major honours. At the end of war hostilities, Halesowen joined the reformed Birmingham and District League, later to be renamed the West Midlands League. And with only 10 clubs competing, Halesowen won the league championship at the first attempt. Major honours though were few and far between, although the club did win the Worcestershire Senior Cup in 1952, beating Hensford Town in the final, and again in 1962 when they beat Kidderminster Harriers. In 1955, Halesowen reached the first round of the FA Cup for the first time, losing 4-2 at home to Hendon, then one of the leading amateur clubs in the country. Halesowen Town are nicknamed the Yelts, and a frequent question concerns the origin of this name. Originally, the town of Halesowen was known as Halles. A common feature of the local dialect, when the letter H precedes a word, is to either drop the H altogether or replace it with a Y. So head becomes Yed, therefore Halles would have been pronounced Yallas, or shortened even further to Yals. Anyone originating from Halesowen was a Yalser. It would seem that further corruption led to the name Yelts. No doubt there are many other theories on this particular subject.
Halesowen Town of the West Midlands League are one of the oldest clubs in the country. Their Wembley run has stirred the local people, and queues like this have never been seen before. More than 1,000 people, 10 times their usual crowd, have been packing in to watch the home games. Over 4,000 tickets for the final against VS Rugby have already been sold, and Wembley souvenirs are being snapped up. But the dreams of the club mascot, 8-year-old Craig Whitehouse, have been shattered. The youngster leads the team out before all the games and joins in the pre-match build-up. He'd set his heart on leading the side out at Wembley, but a long-standing FA rule clearly states that no mascots are allowed.
Dad told me that I couldn't run out to Wembley. At first I didn't believe him. Then he told me, and then I did.
Did you have your heart set on going to Wembley, did you?
Yep.
And running out in front of the team?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now?
Just sit with my dad and watch.
Will it be the same?
No.
Well, there wasn't any trouble. He's been attached to the club since just after the beginning of this season, and we had a meeting with the FA officials to tell us all about the protocol. And it's just a standing rule at Wembley that no mascots are allowed, irrespective of what grade team you are, from first division sides downwards.
So really...
And once they start a thing like that, they reckon it would open the floodgates and there'd be nowhere to stop.
So the rules are the rules?
The rules are the rules.
The FA are sorry for young Craig, but say he can sit on the team bench during the game and join in the celebrations afterwards, providing, of course, his team win. Town have been going for 110 years and are perhaps best known for their infamous sloping pitch. But this season, the Yelts, as they're called, have stirred the local people with their Wembley Cup run. Queues like this have never been seen before in Halesowen, and crowds of over 1,000 have been packing in to watch them play. Wembley tickets are being snapped up, and the Halesowen fans are certainly planning to hit London in style. Leading them up Wembley Way will be Harry Rudge. He's been with them for nearly 50 years as player, manager and now secretary.
It's going to be a day out for nearly the whole of Halesowen, I think, the way the ticket sales are going at the moment. I reckon it'll be very sleepy in the Halesowen Town Centre on the afternoon of April the 30th.
Halesowen will start as favourites for the final, having already beaten VS Rugby 3 times this season. All the players have plenty of local league experience. Twins Paul Joynson and Lee Joynson are the main goal scorers, and there's also Don Smith, who scored at Wembley for Willenhall in the Vars final 2 years ago. Manager Paddy Page is quietly confident, but perhaps the mood of the team is best summed up by captain Stuart Edmonds.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, you can't really describe it as any footballer that plays at any level who want to play there. I mean, there are professional players that haven't played there, and for all the lads that are involved now, I think it's a tremendous honour. I mean, you can't. I mean, to play, I don't think anybody really believes they're going to play there yet. When it happens, then I believe it.
Once a year, Wembley Stadium takes pride in opening its gates to the little clubs, and Halesowen Town and VS Rugby from the West Midlands League made the most of their biggest ever day. The coaches rolled in for what really was a family outing, and the supporters made the most of it. The Vars final may not attract cup final crowds, but the folk from Halesowen and Rugby dressed up in style for the grand occasion, and there were plenty of pictures for the album. The final would have passed this young supporter by, and judging by their pre-match celebrations, a few of these chaps might not remember it too well either. The great thing about the Vars final is that it's a carbon copy of the Cup final, with the 2 sides walking out to a real Wembley roar. A crowd of 13,700 watched a game which at first was dominated by Halesowen in the white shirts. A cross from Edmonds brought the first real attack, with Paul Joynson cleverly crossing for Shivlock to head over. Halesowen pulled Rugby apart again a few minutes later when Woodhouse went through and goalkeeper Colin Burton was forced to come way off his line to clear. The pressure on Rugby kept piling up, and it was Joynson again who made an opening for a shot from Woodhouse. As underdogs, Rugby were playing their part well, and only occasionally did they manage to cause problems for the Halesowen defence. The finishing touches, though, were missing, and it was Halesowen who always looked more capable of scoring. Their skipper, Stuart Edmonds, was inches away with a 20-yarder. Time injury brought a reshuffle to the town team and the appearance of substitute Don Smith, but within 3 minutes Rugby had struck the vital blow. A break by Ingram paved the way. Evans pumped the clearance back in, and Owen got it through for Ian Crawley to push the ball home. The Rugby fans went wild, and as the minutes ticked by, victory came closer. Halesowen didn't give in without a fight, though. Smith and Lacey were desperately close to a last-minute equaliser, but at the whistle, it was Rugby's cup. The underdogs had done it.
Today's to remember for anybody to play here. I mean, whether they're playing Tiddlywinks, I mean, it just oozes character. It's fantastic, and I shall remember this for as long as I live.
Having played for the club from the age of 17, we asked Malcolm Hazelwood what playing at Wembley meant to him.
Obviously a great amount. To play at Wembley at that age is something that is very rare, and with everything going around at the time, it was something really to be proud of. Just a pity that the result wasn't the same. just work with them all.
John Woodhouse, later to become club captain, explains his arrival at the Grove and his part in the success of the 1980s.
I joined Halesowen at the beginning of the 1982-83 season. Prior to that, Paddy Page had started to get together quite a useful team, and they finished about 3rd or 4th in the year the previous season. And fortunately, everything seemed to come together that year that I actually joined. We had a very good spell in the league. We got together a very good squad of players, and we ended up finishing the season by winning the league, and also by having our first trip to Wembley in the FA Vase final. That was a great occasion for us all, but it was obviously very disappointing because we actually lost that match. And I think at the time, although we all said we'll be back again one day, I think secretly we all felt that that would not be the case. Following season, we again won the league, but we was knocked out of the Vase, which was a big blow. But then in 1984-85 season, we managed to win the league again and also get to Wembley and make up for the first disappointment by winning it. That was a tremendous occasion, obviously, to go and win a competition like that in such a stadium as Wembley. And we was fortunate enough to go and repeat again the following season. I think the biggest thing that we had during that time was that we was almost like a family together. Everybody got on well together. There was no groups of people who didn't mix. Everybody was friendly with each other, and what happened on the pitch was also the same off the pitch. We were also very, very friendly off the pitch as well, and it led to a great team spirit. The thing that happened, I always found with Paddy Page as manager, was that he only ever signed players for the club who would fit into that system, and consequently, as players came into the squad during that time, they always fitted in very easily and got on with everybody else. And I think that was a very important thing. Because of the team spirit, I think that helped us a lot in those successful years.
Do you think that the team of the early 1980s was one of the best in non-league football at that time?
Yes, I think perhaps it was. You've got to remember that at that time we were playing in a lower standard than the present team plays in. But having said that, I still feel that we got a squad of players there who were capable of playing at the highest standard than we actually did. Players like the Twins, who everybody talks about, could have played at a lot higher standard than they have done, I feel. But also some of the others who played in the team who perhaps didn't get noticed so much. But the Twins always got the mention, but people like Jeff Moss, who played alongside them, brought so much out of them. He was just perfect for the two of them. In the rest of the side, you've got players, the likes of Les Vandal and Mark Lace at the back, very solid players, very determined players, very enthusiastic, and it was that sort of attitude that brought us success. You look at other players that were signed. Malcolm Hazelwood at the time, when he was a young player, a tremendous prospect. Robert Shurrock had a great season in the early days. They have progressed and have gone on to other clubs and done well and come back to Halesowen. And I think the reason they've come back to Halesowen was because of the whole attitude there was and the feeling there was for the club at that time. And you always find that with any of the players that you talk to now from those days, they've all still got a tremendous feeling for Halesowen Town.
Together with a successful team, progression in non-league football also requires the development of ground facilities. Just after the visit to Wembley in 1983, Halesowen competed in the Thorney MI six-a-side competition at Alexandra Stadium and came away as the winners of £20,000 worth of floodlights.
Hundreds of non-league teams entered the competition way back in September, and yesterday the 8 survivors came together for the finals at Birmingham's Alexander Stadium. In the final, Halesowen in the all-blue strip were up against Heybridge Swifts from Essex. The local fans were out in force, but the cheers soon died down when Heybridge skipper Jim Holder gave his side the lead. Within seconds, Halesowen were back with a tremendous equaliser from their skipper, Stuart Edmonds. It was 15 minutes each way. With no offside and the emphasis on speed, it was cracking entertainment. was the second half that saw Halesowen at their best. It was Edmonds again who gave them the lead after a brilliant run by Lee Joinson. A few minutes later, it was Lee Joinson again to make it 3-1. With the fans singing "We've won the lights," there was no stopping Halesowen, and the other Joinson, twin brother Paul, got the fourth. So Halesowen had more than made amends for that Wembley defeat. A 4-1 victory gave them £20,000 worth of floodlights for their ground, and this time it was their turn to sing in celebration.
Being involved with Halesowen Town for 19 years, you've obviously seen some good and bad times.
That's absolutely true. I first became involved with Halesowen in an official capacity in the summer of 1973, so I shall be starting my 20th season this coming season. I've actually been watching Halesowen since I was about 10 years old, that's about 30 years. I used to come and watch the occasional game. But I got involved, as I say, in 1973. And yes, out of those 19 years, the first 9 years really were hard times. That had a very good side in the 60s and then fell away, and for a long time we were the rubbing rags of the league, if you like. You know, it was always anybody could beat Halesowen. You know, if we drawed, we did a lap of honour, and if we won, we give the players an extra day off. You know, it was that sort of situation. But we kept pushing forward, or trying to. The ground was very limited in what we had. The committee was very old, and that's not being detrimental to the people at the time, but they've been around a long while. I came on, I think I was the youngest member by about 20 years, and there was only 7 of us as well at that stage. But we continued to keep going, and one name obviously has to spring to mind when you mention Halesowen Town Football Club, and that is of Addy Rudge. I'm sure, without any shadow of a doubt, Addy have not shown the dedication over the years that he did, and Halesowen Town could have folded a long while ago. But we kept going. I became very close to Harry, I beg your pardon. I helped him in any way I could, learnt a lot off him, and we sort of worked together very well. As I say, we had an old committee at the time, and that didn't help. But we did start to push forward when a man by the name of Paddy Page took over, and we got 1 or 2 reasonable players, but we did have a couple of lads come along called the Joinson twins. And not being detrimental to the rest of the lads, but these 2 were special. These were the icing on the cake. And they joined us round about 81-82 season. We got a few more lads, and the story really went from there. Everybody, well I say everybody, people in Halesowen know the success that we had with the Wembley years, winning the league, Birmingham Senior Cup, etc, etc. My 2 greatest memories was winning the semi-final of the Vase for the first time when we beat Birmingham. The second leg was absolutely superb, although we lost at Wembley in '83. The actual win of the first semi-final was great. And the other one was actually winning the end of the match when we beat Fleetwood in '85 to go back for the second time and winning the Vase for the first time. That was my 2 you know, great memories. And yes, the success has continued. We've moved up through the leagues. We're now in the Southern Prem, as you know, two leagues off the Football League, if you like. The club has got very much more professional. We've had an influx of younger and dedicated people who put a lot of work in. And obviously we don't forget the times that were hard, because they help you to appreciate the good times. And one thing they do, they make sure you're never going to go back again if you can at all help it. And yes, the club's gone from strength to strength. To name all the committee would take a long time, but the committee we've got now is a tremendously hard working committee. Everybody pulls the weight, everybody mucks in, everybody does the jobs that has to be done to help to make Halesowen Town the success that it's become, and hopefully to continue to do so.
As well as a visit to Wembley, 1983 saw Halesowen take the first of 4 successive West Midland League Championships and complete the double by winning the League Cup. In the following season, 1983-84, Halesowen were once again winners of the West Midlands Regional League and reached the final of the Staffordshire Senior Cup. To round off another successful season, Halesowen Town beat Dudley Town at Molineux by 1-0 to win the Birmingham Senior Cup. In 1985, a new boardroom and dressing rooms were opened at the Grove, and the West Midlands Regional League was retained once again. But remarkably, as vowed 2 years earlier in the We'll Be Back pledge, Halesowen did return to Wembley.
It's hard to believe the Midlands' most successful cup side in recent years lives here on a recreation ground in Halesowen. The sloping pitch and ancient clubhouse may not look much, but this weekend these part-timers will be the envy of many a professional when they walk out at Wembley. For most it'll be their second final in 3 years, and incredibly for one man, Don Smith, his third in 4 years. The FA Vase, the tiny team's cup final, only pulls a crowd of around 20,000. But that doesn't stop the Wembley fever, nor the rush for tickets. Halesowen have sold out once, and tomorrow around 8,000 locals will be heading to London for the big day out. And there'll be no prouder man than Secretary Harry Rudge. 40 years he's been with them, and to many, he is Halesowen Town.
Well, I think it's got to be the pinnacle of achievement, hasn't it, here for a non-league club to get there twice in 3 seasons, beyond our wildest dreams. And we only hope this time that we can do better than last time and come back with the trophy.
Halesowen started as favourites in the '83 final as well, but it wasn't their day. They were on top for much of the match, but it was VS Rugby who got the only goal of the game and lifted the vase. 10 of that squad are going back tomorrow, and once again they've been enjoying the publicity and popularity that goes with a Wembley appearance. But this time, Halesowen are determined to come back with the winners' medals.
Seen it all before. We got the experience of the occasion. It's going to be a difficult game, they always are, but we've got the confidence. I think we can do it.
What's it mean to the players, though, to be going to Wembley?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic to go once, but to go a second time is unbelievable. I think nobody can really believe it.
Apart from full-back Ian Sherwood, who had a couple of seasons with Leicester City, the Halesowen boys are all local leaguers. And the danger men? Well, the Joinson brothers have confused most defences. Paul and his twin Lee already have 50 goals between them this season. The Halesowen supporters will take some beating as well. You'll not find more devoted fans than these. Even the old rattle has come out for Wembley, so let's just hope they have something to celebrate.
How did you become involved with Halesowen Town?
Halesowen Town. It goes back many years. I was actually born within about 100 yards of the ground. So obviously you can see, right from a lad, I was involved with watching the side play. During the late 70s, I lost interest, to be truthful. And I think that was probably when we go back to when there was a man and a boy on the ground. My father continued to support Halesowen. And during the early 80s, he used to tell me about these lads who played, the twins, Lee and Paul. And he kept saying to me, we've got 2 real good strikers here. And I just ignored him, obviously. And during '83, he said to me, you should really come to see Halesowen Town. There's a chance they'll go to Wembley. And of course, you tend to say, Halesowen at Wembley, that is just never on. And you know, he's just talking a little bit through his hat. But quarterfinals came, and I think it was, we played Shepshed, thank you, Richard. Shepshed Charterhouse. And I thought, well, this looks interesting. So I came up, saw them, we beat Shepshed, and we were playing Burnham Beeches during the Easter period in the semi-finals, which was quite amazing. Halesowen Town now had a very good chance of going to Wembley. We beat Burnham Beeches here. I decided we were going away on holiday, which would be down Oxford area, because we were playing down there. And it was a tremendous day out. We actually beat them down there, and Halesowen Town were at Wembley. And things grew from there. We had a great crowd around us who used to go away and follow every game. I've never followed a game so much in all my life. I was a supporter of our West Bromwich Albion, and I never travelled away as often as I did with Halesowen. 85 came, 86 came, and we're at Wembley once more. But once again, we'd been turned down for the Southern League. And a group of us said, look, it's about time we did something for Halesowen Town. if they need money to level the pitch and do the various ground improvements, perhaps we should do something like the players were doing it on the pitch. So I learned that they were about to level the pitch, which was going to cost somewhere in the region of £10,000–15,000. I calculated that if I split the pitch into 1 square yards or square meters, then we could make quite a lot of money if you work it out, 110 yards by 70 yards. So I actually did a chart like so, and I started raising money by asking people to give me £1 for every square yard. As you can see there, the green represents £1 per square yard. The red is involved in other ventures which we went along with. Turf sponsorship, I've actually got all the names in the book. If ever anyone wants to have a look at, I've got the book at home. If you bought a square yard of turf, then I've got your name in the book. In addition to that, the last Wembley run, 86, I took coaches, and again, I put a prize on every coach. And I asked people to name the coach. We've got all the coaches that went along. So again, if you actually went to Wembley in 86 and you were on a coach, we've got your name down here in the book. We also auctioned off the vase ribbons and the centre spot, penalty area and corner areas. And again, names are in the book there. We finally raised, I would think, in the region of £10,000 or £11,000, which must have been quite a lot of money in those days, because you're going back now 6 years. That was done, and I was very happy to do that for the club. The then chairman, Colin Murphy, in the June of that year said to me, "How would you like to join the commercial team?" Now, I'd never really considered joining the club in that. I did that because I thought Halesowen had done so much for me. I joined the commercial team, and it went on from there. I started raising money from sponsor boards. We built the Harry Rudge stand, and aren't I glad we put Harry Rudge over the top there at the time he was alive, for obvious reasons. We extended various areas of boardroom, players, facilities, dressing rooms, etc., etc., sponsor lounge, and we had a lot of fun doing this. That is a very reason I was involved, purely to try and help the club.
The big day arrived on Saturday, the 27th of April, 1985.
They might have been to Wembley before, but it's all part of the day, treading the turf, waving to the fans and spotting relatives in the stands. And before the match itself got underway, smaller in number though Fleetwood supporters might have been, vocally they were giving it their all. And for the teams, there was a word from Bobby Charlton. It didn't take Halesowen long to adjust to the atmosphere or the pitch, and when you consider it's worlds away from what they're used to, it was all the more laudable. So too the early goal. 9 minutes on the clock, Richard Heath produced the sort of pass that would split any defence, and Jeff Moss did the rest. Paul Joynson won't thank anybody for reminding him of his miss 7 minutes later. Wembley nerves perhaps. Had it gone in though, that would well have been the end of the game as a contest. Fleetwood may have had a few replays along their way to Wembley, but because they were never allowed to settle, it was nearly half-time before they mounted anything like a challenge on goal. The killer blow came 4 minutes into the second half. Martin Hazelwood's was the through ball, Paul Joynson's the flick, twin brother Lee did the rest. Fleetwood faded, but Paul Caldicott had to be at his very best to stop Laurie Milligan from pulling a goal back. But all Lancastrian hope was gone on 78 minutes when, for the second time, Lee Joinson's skill got the better of the Fleetwood defence. And just when the final whistle was due, Fleetwood's captain Norman Moran produced a splendid volley to give Fleetwood some respectability. But that was all. The cup was Halesowen's. Halesowen had made up for the disappointment of defeat by VS Rugby 2 years ago for their fans' utter delight. For John Woodhouse, moments to savour.
Obviously, with this crowd behind us, fantastic. Great feeling to have won it. Literally after losing it the first time, to come back to win it now, it's a great achievement, and the support has been fantastic again. It's really great.
And as they trailed away back to the dressing room and the champagne, a reminder that they'd been there and they'd done it.
Summarise what Halesowen Town meant in the last 10 years.
It's very difficult to put the last 10 years into a short few sentences, but really it was nice to be there from the inception of when it started to come right to where the club is now, basically. It was nice to see the club progress from the formative years and the Vars years right through to senior Premier football as it is, and one step away from Football League, really.
Could you outline some of your most memorable games while playing here at the Grove?
There's quite a few memorable games, really. It's hard to condense them, but I suppose I think the biggest one would have to be the Burnham game, the one we played away from home, where we won 2-1 and we got to Wembley. That was my biggest memory because it was a marvellous feeling that we'd actually done it. But I think also the one where I knew that Halesowen were on something big, we're going places, is when we beat Shepshed down here in the quarter-finals, and I really knew then that this was the start of something, and that we were going to side to be reckoned with. They were the first big side we played, and it was a good performance. But there've been many. The Midland Division year when we won the championship and the cup ties, you know, everyone's a memory.
1985 brought the disappointment of rejection from the Southern League. So in the season 1985-1986 began with Halesowen Town once again competing in the West Midlands Regional League and the FA Vars. The Vars fixtures began with a defeat of Brereton Social and Brig, and although no one dared mention Wembley, it soon became clear that yet another Vars trail had begun. Surely it would be too much to expect the Wembley dream to come true once again. Yet victory over Sheffield by 8-1, Tamworth and Camberley brought Halesowen Town once again to the brink of Wembley, with a semi-final tie against Warrington Town, then of the North West Counties League. The travelling hordes of Halesowen fans were pleased when Halesowen came away with a 1-1 draw from the away leg, with Lee Joinson getting the goal. And so to the second leg at the Grove.
The FA Vars is one of the big prizes in non-league soccer, giving small semi-professional clubs like Halesowen the chance of Wembley glory. The famous Twin Towers are pretty familiar to the Halesowen faithful. They were beaten finalists in 1983 and they won the Vars last season. There were 3,000 Black Country fans packed into their windswept Grove Stadium on Saturday, only a few hundred short of the attendance up the road at Molyneux for the Wolves-Bristol City League match. The hard work this year, it seemed to have been done. Halesowen had drawn 1-1 in the first leg at Warrington. They got the perfect start on Saturday. Lee Joinson met Mark Penn's through ball, and that was his 23rd goal of the season. But 8 minutes later and Warrington were back in it. Leading scorer Steve Hughes saw his first shot parried by Caldicott, but he scored at the second attempt. When striker John Woodhouse was upended early in the second half, Halesowen had the chance to go into the lead. But Ian Sherwood's penalty was too close to the Warrington goalkeeper. Lee Joinson made amends in the 69th minute, capitalising on a mix-up in the visiting defence for his second goal of the match. It took Warrington only 3 minutes to draw level again, Ian Kinsey displaying fine close skills to score from the edge of the box. So 2-2 at the end of normal time, the sides facing another half an hour in by now gale force conditions. But again Halesowen got the start they needed 90 seconds into extra time, and Paul Joynson shot in at the top corner. That was his 40th goal of the season. But it still wasn't enough. Warrington came back with probably the best move of the match, which was finished off by a low drive from Steve Hughes. And that was how it finished, 3-3 after extra time.
No one could imagine what a sensational FA Vars semi-final replay lay in store at the Bucks Head, Telford. We asked twins Lee and Paul Joynson, scorers of the 4 goals in the previous 2 games against Warrington, to outline their most memorable matches for Halesowen Town.
The one what stands in my mind is the replay of the Vars when we went to Telford, and it was end-to-end stuff. I think everybody who was there on that night really enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed it because I scored one, set up a couple, and it was our 3rd time going to Wembley.
Mine, well, it's got to be all the semi-finals of the Vars, plus the Birmingham Senior Cup final down in London. We beat Dudley 1-0 and then happened to score the goal.
After a disappointing performance on Saturday, the Halesowen faithful were hoping their side could raise their game and book their place in the final for the 2nd year running. Once again, Halesowen in blue and white got the start they needed. 8 minutes gone and Lee Joynson's corner finds Mark Lacey at the far post. But within 3 minutes, Warrington were level. Another corner, Caldecott misses it, and Peter Henderson scores with a first-time shot. Both sides were struggling to find their rhythm in the first half, but Halesowen were 2-1 ahead at the break thanks to this goal. Lacey gets in 2 headers, and Jeff Moss scrambles the ball over the line. The second half, and Warrington equalise again. Ian Kinsey scores off the underside of the bar. But Halesowen are beginning to get the edge, and they go 3-2 ahead as Woodhouse's pass finds Paul Joynson in a crowded penalty area. Midway through the second half, and it's 4-2. A hint of offside as Paul Joynson goes clear on the wing, and his cross gives twin brother Lee the easiest of chances. And the goals kept coming a minute later, and Warrington are back in it. Kinsey finds the net after another lapse in the Halesowen defence. 74 minutes gone, and the Joynson twins show almost telepathic understanding to outfox the Warrington defence, with Lee Joynson adding the finishing touch for his 2nd goal of the game. 5-3 to Halesowen. 10 minutes left, and Warrington win a penalty, but Gordon Hunter fires the spot kick high and wide, and the Northerners' spirit is finally broken. A couple of minutes later, substitute Don Smith knocked in Halesowen's 6th of the night, and that was that. The final score of 6-3. Celebrations in the dressing room with the Halesowen players giving the traditional rendition. For them, a 2nd successive Wembley final, where they'll defend the FA Vars against London side Southall. No doubt the streets of Halesowen will be deserted on April the 26th as 10,000 Black Country fans make the now familiar trip down Wembley Way.
Whilst the Vars run was underway, Halesowen Town were once again mounting a successful league campaign, and by May 1986, for the 4th successive season, Halesowen Town took the West Midlands League Championship. Over 4 league championship seasons, 440 league goals had been scored, and just 14 games out of 152 were lost. But on the 26th of April 1986, all minds were fixed on the FA Vars. Remarkably, for the 3rd time in 4 years, Harry's Halesowen Town were back at Wembley.
Wembley has become a second home for the little club from the Black Country. Only Liverpool, Everton and Manchester United can match their record of 3 Wembley Cup finals in 4 seasons. At their final training session before the big day, most of the attention surrounded their unusual strike duo, the Joynson brothers, who have the unique distinction of being the only twins to play in 3 Wembley Cup finals. With the cup final record to cheer them on their way, the town is in the grip of cup fever.
The enthusiasm throughout the town again is fantastic, and I think we're even going to top the amount of people we took last year to the final. And really, to be going for a third time, you might think the interest might drop off a little bit, but it certainly hasn't, and there's probably more enthusiasm this year than there's ever been.
The part-timers lost in their first appearance at Wembley to VS Rugby. They made amends last year, defeating Fleetwood by 3-1. Success in the Vars, along with their domination of the West Midlands League, should take them into the Southern League, provided that they beat Southall tomorrow.
Obviously going to go into the match, I should think, as strong favourites, but I think the biggest thing in our favour is the fact that we have played it before, in most cases twice, and the nerves won't be so bad. The first year we was very nervous when we played there, and I think that showed in our game. Last year we was a lot calmer and played well, and I think that will be the same this year. I'm sure that Southall will suffer with nerves when they actually get there. It's such a great occasion that you can't help but suffer with nerves a little bit. I mean, last year they were talking about 16,000 there, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. What it must be like with 100,000, I wouldn't like to think. But the whole occasion, the whole day, and in fact the whole weekend is tremendous. It's a time, really, you've got to make the most of it, enjoy as much as you can.
Last spring it was party time at Wembley. 9,000 Black Country fans joined in the celebrations as Halesowen Town took the FA Vars. The win made all the sweeter after disappointment in 1983. This morning the loyalty of those fans was again in evidence as the team prepared for the coach trip to their London hotel. The squad's much the same this season and has dominated the West Midlands League once again. Only ground improvements stand between them and the Southern League. In the past few years, the support this little club has generated has embarrassed some of the neighbouring professional sides. Tomorrow will be no exception.
The support that we've had over the last 4 years has been tremendous, really, both in league matches and cup matches. But with all due respect, I think we've earned the support with the results that we've got, really. I do get to the players. The players are fully aware that people expect us to do well, and sometimes it's a little bit of a hindrance, really.
What about the possibility of winning this for the second time? Do you think that might persuade a lot of people that Halesowen Town is good enough and big enough to be a Southern League club?
Well, I hope that we've proved that anyway without having to win the Vars to do that. But obviously by winning the Vars it will only help our reputation, and we're more very hopeful that it's going to be Southern League football next year.
Like all Wembley-bound soccer teams, there's even a Halesowen Town Cup final record.
10,000 fans made the journey, many of them supporters of Albion, Villa and Blues. But on Saturday they were all Halesowen fans. For the players it was a heart-pounding occasion, stepping onto the slightly soggy but still hallowed Wembley turf. Many of them, like manager Paddy Page, had been here before, this their third visit in 4 years. The game itself began slowly, with mistakes aplenty on the greasy surface. This one by Randall let in Les Ferdinand for a shot just a little too close for comfort. Then Halesowen's terrible twins took centre stage. After 18 minutes, Paul Joinson should have scored. Brother Lee then joined the assault, turning two defenders with some slick footwork. In the 35th minute, the breakthrough. A free kick headed on by Lacey. A lob by Paul Joinson. And Jeff Moss plants a careful header. A fair reward for Halesowen's enterprise, and a just scoreline to end the half. The second period saw a different Southall, altogether more flowing and adventurous. 3 minutes gone and they thought they'd equalised. But the offside decision was made early and clearly. With Southall opening up, there was space to exploit. The Joinson twins relished it, and Lee will still be wondering how he missed this one. On 68 minutes, a turning point. A header from Ferdinand and a save of quality from Pemberton.
6 minutes later, Lee Joinson's shot cannons off the near post and trickles in via a defender. 2-0 and the celebrations have already begun. 3 minutes later, more drama when Heath's shot crashes off the bar. Following up, Jeff Moss grabs his second. Over the line or not, by now it really didn't matter. Moments later, it was all over, and the emotions took over. For the second year running, Halesowen were in the royal box to receive the FA Vase. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
You must be getting used to this.
Well, I don't think you'll ever get used to something like that. It's fantastic.
Tougher game than it looked on paper.
It was a very hard game. It was a very hot day, and I think everybody felt the atmosphere, and it really tiring out there. But we did it in the end.
What's it like to score 2 goals at Wembley?
Great, smashing, lovely.
What about that second goal he got?
Just got a touch through, it just went over.
Was it over?
Not when I kicked it now.
I think the turning point was the save by Alan Pemberton in about a quarter of an hour in the second half.
Which was just after that offside goal.
Marvellous save, yes.
What about the final goal there? There was some dispute over that.
Well, they disputed it, we didn't. I thought it was in, so it was a goal, so that's it.
Any plans for tonight?
Probably get drunk, but we've done it for all these people up here. Marvellous.
The generosity of both fans and players made a refreshing sight. Southall's fans applauding their conquerors, while Halesowen's consoled the losing captain. But then the whole day was a shining example of how the game, both on and off the pitch, was meant to be played. In November 1985, for the first time since 1955, and for only the second time in the club's history, Halesowen Town appeared in the FA Cup first round proper, being drawn away to Frickley Athletic of the Gola League. This was to be the first of a series of consecutive appearances in the FA Cup first round, leading up to the present day. Following a successful 1-1 draw at Frickley Athletic of the Gola League, with the goal scored by Lee Joinson, the replay took place at the Grove.
It was Halesowen's biggest night anyone could remember. The West Midlands League champions were on the cup trail again.
Hello, Halesowen Town Football Club. Price of admission, well, we've kept our price the same for this match. You all travelled all up to Frickley on Saturday. It'll be £1 for adults and 50p for children and old age pensioners.
Outside on a very chilly November night, the players from Gola League Frickley Athletic appeared quite bemused by the frightening slope at the far corner of Halesowen's ground. The Halesowen dressing room was strangely subdued. Frickley's late equaliser on Saturday spared their blushes. Tonight Halesowen knew was likely to be harder. Harry Rudge has devoted 40 years to the club. Even 2 recent Wembley appearances in the FA Vase final didn't compare to the possibilities tonight had to offer.
This must rate is the biggest in the club's history. Of course, it does give us an opportunity to get into the second round proper of the FA Cup, which we've never done before. We've played in the first round proper before in 1955 against Hendon up here, when we had a crowd of 5,000. I don't think we'll exceed that tonight, but we're looking forward to a very good gate.
In fact, almost 3,000 were there, twice Halesowen's average attendance, and probably double the crowd that the winners could expect in the next round at 4th Division Hartlepool United. Halesowen took the lead on 9 minutes when, from a corner, Paul Wilson used a hand to clear. No doubt about it, despite the protests. Ian Sherwood, once with Leicester City, made no mistake. There was almost half an hour gone when Frickley scored. The offending Paul Wilson making amends with a perfect cross to Colin Bishop's forehead. As the second half wore on, Frickley began to dominate, and from Gary Mallinder's cross, Paul Wilson made it 2-1. It seemed whichever goalmouth he was in, he spelled danger. 6 minutes from full time, and after Mark Lacey's trip, Russell Wilcox scored from the penalty spot. So Halesowen's dream of reaching the second round of the FA Cup had died.
Club Secretary Stuart Tilsley explains his early involvement and his present day-to-day role within the club.
That's right. I first joined the committee about 25 years ago in 1967, and I'd supported the club for quite a few seasons before that.
How have things changed at the club during that time?
Well, I think most changes have taken place during the last 10 years. When I first joined the committee, and for a good many years after that, the players' changing rooms were about 100 yards away from the pitch, and they had to walk across the recreation ground and through the crowd to get onto the pitch. And although it didn't happen very often, when some officials had made some bad decisions during the game, they had to walk through the crowd back to the dressing rooms with angry supporters chasing after them. Although, as I say, that didn't happen very often. Virtually nothing happened to the ground until about 1983, which was during our first Vars run. And that seemed to create a lot of interest, and many changes took place to the ground then. And now we have got a stadium to be proud of. From a playing point of view, in the 1960s, we had a very good team, and although we didn't actually win anything, we were always in the top 2 or 3 in the West Midlands League. After that, things deteriorated quite a lot, and we reached a very low point in the 1970s when we finished bottom of the West Midlands League. Things improved slowly after that, and by about 1980-81 we were starting winning games again, and 1983 was our first Vars win, and from then we've gone from success to success.
What for you have been the highlights?
Well, most of the highlights have taken place during our successful run of the last 10 years. And I think the most memorable game has probably been the FA Vars final against VS Rugby. A club at our standard doesn't really expect to get to Wembley, and it was an absolutely fantastic weekend that we had there. I think being able to go into the dressing room before the game and out onto the pitch just before the kick-off was something that I'll never forget. And although we lost that game, I think for myself it was probably the best of the 3 finals. Other games that stand out for me, the semi-final of that run against Rugby at Burnham, we'd won the first game up here 2-1, and we seemed to be coasting at Burnham to quite an easy victory. But then midway through the second half, our defence seemed to get some Wembley jitters, and they fell to pieces, and Burnham looked as though they were going to make a good comeback, but we just about held on at the end. And after that game, there was fantastic scenes on the pitch and in the dressing room and in their clubhouse afterwards, and it really was a most emotional day for us.
Long last, in the summer of 1986, following major pitch levelling work and ground improvements, news was conveyed to Club Secretary Harry Rudge that Halesowen Town would be elected to the Southern League Midland Division after 3 years of trying. Halesowen Town finished a credible 5th in their first season in the Southern League Midland Division, and once again won through to the FA Cup first round, losing 4-1 at 4th Division Southend United. Halesowen Town were facing Football League opponents for the very first time, and were not disgraced despite conceding a goal in the first minute. The 4th Division promotion chasers took the lead when Derek Hall fired home after being left unmarked. Southend might well have extended their lead before Jeff Moss headed Halesowen level. Paul Joinson's powerful drive was parried by Stannard, and Moss followed up to score in the 17th minute. Roy McDonough put Southend back in front in the 42nd minute with a firm header from Hall's cross. 10 minutes into the second half, Richard Cadet drove in the 3rd goal for Southend. In the 80th minute, Halesowen should have pulled a goal back. Lee Joinson set up twin Paul, but his close-range effort was superbly saved by Stannard, Moss's shot from the rebound being blocked by Westley. 5 minutes from time, McDonough scored following a fine run from Cadet to kill off Halesowen Town's hopes, but the FA Cup exit was no disgrace for the battling Yelts. Season 1987-88 began with the opening of the Harry Rudge stand, and apart from league action, the first big game was again in the first round of the FA Cup, the second of 7 consecutive appearances at this stage. Over 3,000 spectators saw Kidderminster take a 1-0 half-time lead following Malcolm Hazelwood's injury-time volley for the Harriers. The game took on a different complexion in the second half with 3 goals of sheer quality. Kidderminster dominated for the first 20 minutes, but Halesowen grabbed a brilliant equaliser after 66 minutes following good work from the Joinson twins, with Lee getting the final touch as the Harriers' defence collapsed. 3 minutes later, Harriers regained the lead with a blistering volley from Martin Woodall. Minutes later, Jeff Moss equalised again, and from then on Halesowen took the game to the FA Trophy holders, but could not quite find the winner. With the Harry Rudge stand packed to the rafters, we asked Harry if it was a good game to watch.
Excellent game to watch, end-to-end stuff. Kidderminster took the lead twice, and Halesowen fought back well to get to equalise on 2 occasions, and I think it was a fitting result to a very fine match.
Do you think the pendulum has now swung Kidderminster's way because the replay's on their patch?
Well, you would think so, but we play quite well away from home, and there's everything to play for still, and both clubs will have the incentive of knowing what the draw was before they kick off, because the FA make the draw every Monday, as you know, and after 1 o'clock we should before know it'll be Halesowen or Kiddy versus so-and-so, so that I always think is a great incentive for both players, both teams to do well.
Of the 4 goals today, Harry, pick one out for us as being the best.
Well, the first goal for Kidderminster was a very good one by Malcolm Hazelwood. He got his foot around the edge of the box and he chipped and lobbed one over, and everybody... I didn't actually see it go in, but everybody told me it was a very good goal. But I thought our 2 equalisers for sheer effort and perseverance were 2 of the best, because Lee Johnson had to position himself inside the box and shield the ball and beat off 1 or 2 challenges, and he got it in just inside the upright. And Jeff Moss scored an identical equaliser after Kidderminster had gone ahead again when Pemberton punched the ball out. It didn't get very far, and the Kidderminster player, I don't know his name, got on the end of it and crashed it straight back in. And so there was about a quarter of an hour to go, and I thought we did very well to come back on 2 occasions.
Harry, it is the FA Cup. I mean, your stand was full. There was over 3,000 there to watch the match. It's another proud day for Halesowen.
Excellent day, and as I say, we're still living to fight again on Monday evening, and I think all the crowd thoroughly enjoyed it. There was no trouble of any description, not that I heard of any at any rate, and it all went off very well indeed, and they're all enjoying themselves in the boardroom now.
So you'll be enjoying a drink with the Kidderminster directors and players then?
Yes, we're all having a bit of a good discussion and a few jocular comments, you know.
Harry, I was told...
I've got the pound signs in my eyes again, you know, looking forward to this gate again on Monday night.
Harry, I was told you didn't talk to each other, the Halesowen and Kidderminster camps.
We do. I'm on very friendly relations with the Kidderminster people. We have been all our lives, sort of, at least since 1946. I can remember some great encounters with them, and we're always very affable.
And on Monday night, you got to do it all over again?
Got to do it all over again. I said it should be a draw again, because John Eastman was here, the chairman of the Southern League, and he come in and he said, "Wish you all the best for Monday, Harry." And he said, "I'll just say so long to the Kidderminster folks." And he went straight across to them. He says, "I wish you all the best for Monday." So that sounds like a draw again, doesn't it?
So on to the Monday night replay at Agborough.
The supporters were out in force to see which of the sides could earn a second-round tie at Maidstone, and it was Halesowen who showed first. Winger Lee Joinson set free, but Jim Arnold equal to the effort. Joinson's twin brother Paul should have done even better 5 minutes later, but Kidderminster's luck held out. And the home side even had the audacity to take the lead, much against the run of play. Malcolm Hazelwood provided the chance, Mick Toohey the finish. And worse was to follow for Halesowen. Centre-half Mike Guest was helped off with an ankle injury. In the second half, Harriers increased their lead. Paul Davis heading in Graham Mackenzie's cross, but not without mishap. A clash of heads meant Davis and Halesowen's Mark Penn had to leave the field, Penn requiring stitches. Halesowen's third came from Toohey yet again, helped possibly by keeper Alan Pemberton's indecision. And Robert Jones headed in number 4 in spectacular fashion. So a 4-0 victory earning Kidderminster that tie against Maidstone and a place in round 2 for the first time in 52 years.
Then a disappointing 4-0 defeat for Halesowen. At the time, Malcolm Hazelwood was playing for Kidderminster Harriers, but in February 1988, a then club record fee of £1,000 brought him back to Halesowen. We asked Malcolm what made him return to the Grove.
Obviously knowing all the people who were here, and you could just get back into a rhythm of playing football for the club and playing the way you enjoyed the game. Obviously myself then would be able to do and express myself as I would like to.
Being at the club for a long spell and club captain, this must bring back good and bad times.
Mostly good. A few Wembley appearances and all the winning to the Senior Cups and the Worcester Senior Cups. Personally myself, the VS Rugby game in the Birmingham Senior Cup, the year after we lost at Wembley to VS Rugby, a great personal triumph for myself with 2 goals and obviously getting revenge in a 4-1 victory.
The 1987-88 league season was completed with Halesowen Town finishing in 6th position in the Southern League Midland Division, but also reaching the final of the Worcestershire Senior Cup, losing to Worcester City by 4-2 on aggregate. During the close season, manager Paddy Page added Sean Flynn, Stuart Cash and Eric Smith to his squad. All 3 were later to play a major role in Town's rise to Premier League football. But at the start of the 1988-1989 season, no one could guess that a new era was about to dawn for Halesowen Town. Following an unusually shaky start to the season, the town was rocked in September by the news that manager Paddy Page was to leave the club, with Harry Rudge taking temporary charge of team affairs. Paddy had seen success with appearances at 3 Wembley FA Vars finals with 2 victories, 4 successive West Midland League Championships, winning the League Cup, the Staffordshire Senior Cup, the Birmingham Senior Cup, and appearances in the FA Cup first round, together with promotion to the Southern League. However, in Paddy's own words, "It was a monster I'd created and I felt I could no longer control it. That's why I walked away. But it was an enormous emotional wrench." In October 1988, John Morris was appointed as manager of Halesowen Town, his first game being a 2-0 victory away at Witney Town. We asked John how he came to be appointed.
Well, I'd been a manager of a few clubs over a period of time, and then I spent 5 years at Balmere St Michael's, and I thought that I'd been reasonably successful and I'd achieved an apprenticeship in managing, and I felt that the time had come and the time was right for me to move on to better things. Unfortunately, it weren't ever going to happen at Balmere because they'd obviously progressed as far as they wanted to, but I wanted a little bit more out of it. So I'd obviously applied for a couple of jobs in a higher standard of football, and unfortunately I hadn't been given the opportunity. And what I found was that it always seemed that the job was cut and dry. So when I saw the Halesowen vacancy come up, I naturally presumed that was going to be the same. It's going to take the same line, and consequently I was a bit apprehensive about actually applying for the job. My gaffer at work was the guy who actually pushed me into it, and in the actual advert for the job was a guy phone number by the name of Harry Rudge, who I found to be so unique in the end, and I was actually buffered into phoning Harry to ask him if the job had actually been taken, because, as I said, I'd experienced it 2 or 3 times previous, and Mr Rudge informed me that it hadn't, and they was going to do it very democratically by drawing up a list and then a short list and interviewing. As it turned out, he asked me if I'd like to be put onto that list, and I obviously said yes, I would. And consequently I got an opportunity. I came down, and that was the first chance I had to meet Harry Rudge, and to be perfectly honest, he was a guy who for me was everything he epitomised in football. He was a character in his own right. The club actually rotated round him, and the work that he actually committed, the work that he actually did for the club was phenomenal. I was always told from a very early age in managing that you keep on good terms with 2 people, and that's the secretary and the chairman as a manager. Here I was applying for a job and obviously getting the job in the end, and I'd got 2 guys in one. I think that's the biggest compliment that I could ever pay the guy. that he was 2 in 1, and obviously a lot more than the secretary and the chairman of the club. Figurehead, everything about the guy was just unique.
Obviously, following a track record like the one of Paddy Page, did you feel pressured into needing instant success?
Well, the club's always, over the past few years before I arrived at the club, had a lot of success with ours finals, either winning them or coming runners-up, and they'd had a lot of success in the West Midland League. It was up to me to try and educate the people that success isn't offered to you on the plate, and you have to work very, very hard for it, and it ain't an overnight thing, and it's inevitable that the higher up you become, that you get in football, the harder it becomes to become successful. And this was something that I needed to put across to the directors when I came to the club. Well, it was a committee then, but the directors now, and also trying to educate the supporters. But I just feel that we've had success in our own way over the last 4 years that I've been here. I mean, we've just missed out on success the first year. We actually got success the second year by winning the Southern Midland, and last year even to get to the heights of 8th or 10th, whatever it was in the league was for me was success anyway, and it was just up to me to make sure that everybody around realised that that was success for us.
With Halesowen's fine FA Cup record being rewarded by exemption from the first 3 qualifying rounds, one of John's first big matches in charge saw Yelts drawn away to Beezer Holmes' outfit Chelmsford in the FA Cup 4th qualifying round. Malcolm Hazelwood sent Halesowen 2 goals up within half an hour, but then Halesowen had to sustain long spells of pressure with an excellent defensive display. Chelmsford got a goal back just before half-time, but Halesowen weathered a tense second half before Paul Joynson sealed a memorable 3-1 victory, scoring a precise goal after a fine solo 50-yard run minutes from full-time. In the FA Cup first round, Halesowen Town were drawn away to 3rd Division Brentford.
No doubt everybody on the ground well aware that Andy, Mr Consistency here at the club, the second leading scorer this season, has been once again one of the most dangerous and consistent players in the current season, and Halesowen this time getting a chance to clear their lines and their first moment to threaten the Brentford defence. We'll run through the Halesowen players as the game continues. I hope you'll become more familiar with some of the names and numbers here. Our visitors this afternoon from the Midlands have their man cup tied. Now this is a free kick played in Blissett jumping, Evans. Nobody can get it down to feet. Gary Blissett looking to turn and fire a shot in. Andy Feely will, and the keeper right behind it. Of course, much needed revenue. And Halesowen themselves may have something to say about that. Indeed, they have something to say right now with a free kick in a dangerous position. We're right in front of that goal of Roberts. The Brentford wall will be called back. And Eric Smith over the ball is looking for somebody to drive this one. It's going to be the number 7 who does get a shot in, but that's not testing Jeremy Roberts. Malcolm Hazelwood at the other end, Brentford on the far side. There's a trip, surely, on Andy Sinton. And a free kick to Brentford. Terry Evans will get his added height and presence up into the penalty area alongside Gary Blissett. It's looking for Evans. It's found Evans, and Evans finds the net. Brentford have the perfect of starts. Terry Evans from the free kick taken by Andy Simpson. Just as we were highlighting the big man's name, he'd already been up once before inside the first 5 minutes to rifle one header just over the bar. And that time he went one better, past the keeper, underneath the Halesowen crossbar into the back of the net. And Brentford lead here by 1-0. Scorer, Terry Evans. Mark Penn, the culprit for pushing the back. And once again, need I tell you that Terry Evans is lumbering upfield to lend his considerable bulk to the attack. This time, though, the free kick is a short one, and Richard Cadet causing confusion. It's not away yet, only as far as Kevin Godfrey. Godfrey is obstructed, and the referee right on the spot has his arm raised for an indirect free kick. Well, I think Keith Jones was being optimistic in asking Mr Hemsley if there may have been a penalty there. No doubt about the obstruction, but Godfrey went crashing to the ground in a dangerous position, and the referee had no hesitation in awarding this indirect free kick to Brentford. Well, surely from there those blue shirts should be all the way back on the line. It's driven into the wall by Andy Sinton, dinked back in by Godfrey, behind for a goal kick. He has been suffering with a bad back, but I'm sure manager Perriman won't mind. All the time Cadet is finding the back of the net, but I also have a sneaky suspicion he'd like to have both his front men scoring regularly for the club. Now, for the first time, Halesowen have a chance to put some pressure on the Brentford defence. Terry Evans forced to concede the corner since Gary Blissett was last on the score sheet, if my memory serves me right. Corner to Halesowen, dangerous one underneath that crossbar, and Evans and then Millen get crucial headers to get the ball forward, but Sinton's lost out. Peter Sturgis is in field. Hazelwood found himself going the wrong way there. Here in the first half. Gary Blissett surely taken a nudge in the back. Yes, the referee's seen it. All credit to Halesowen, they've refused to buckle, conceding the early goal, and they're doing themselves credit and indeed playing their part too in making this an interesting and fairly even contest, certainly not being outclassed at all as we approach half-time, but they've got some serious defending to do now, and that wall must be in position correctly. Hughes is bobbing about on his line. Brentford then with a free kick right on the edge of the Halesowen penalty area. There's a dummy wall. Andy Sinton to fire into the top corner. Sinton makes it number 2 with the right foot. And all of a sudden, just a spring in the step and the eagerness to get on with it a little bit quicker coming from the men in blue. And as we were saying earlier, it's all about confidence and self-belief, and who knows, perhaps now they feel they really are in with a chance of a goal. They've got plenty of men forward here on this attack. And into the Brentford penalty area, and Andy Feely having to do a good cleaning up job there to deny Halesowen a strike on goal. And enjoying a good spell now, the visitors. First to the ball again. And playing the ball in early. Jamie Bates under some pressure. Now this is the sort of battling performance one expects from no-hopers in these David and Goliath Cup competitions. Once again, Halesowen showing a lovely touch through the middle. Now, this time perhaps they will make it count. Hazelwood, was he tripped? He was. The keeper was out. He was outside his box. In fact, the foul wasn't from the Brentford keeper. There was an ankle tap on Mark Hazelwood, and it's going to earn a Brentford man a booking. That man is Jamie Bates. Mark Hazelwood, who just a minute or so ago had found space down the left flank to attack that Brentford goal through the inside left channel. On that occasion, he was straight through the middle and homing in on goal when he was brought crashing to the ground by the outstretched leg of Jamie Bates. A yellow card then for the Brentford number 2. And a free kick to Halesowen in an identical position from the one in which Andy Sinton scored Brentford's second. Now, can Halesowen and Malcolm Hazelwood, the man who was fouled, produce something similar for the team in blue? Brentford this time have pulled everybody back. Hazelwood plays the ball to his left. The shot from Cash is charged down. And that's an offside. And Halesowen with the free kick. Mark Penn. Now, here's Keith Jones, and the whistle's gone. And it is indeed the final whistle here this afternoon, just a fraction early by my watch. And a warm applause for the non-league side from the Southern League Midland Division. Their travelling supporters have come down. Well, they've seen their team go out at the first hurdle in the FA Cup, as they've done for the last 3 seasons. But I'm sure they've enjoyed thoroughly their visit here this afternoon to the home of Brentford at Griffin Park. They've been a credit to their team. Their team generously, indeed, in turn support their supporters, and that's nice to see. And all round the ground, in fact, applause ringing out from the generous Brentford fans as well, because Halesowen have gone down here this afternoon by 2-0. They've been a credit to their division. Their standard of football at times match that of the professionals, but Brentford it is who go into Monday's draw and into the second round.
Cup exit, John Morris was able to concentrate on making progress in the league. Lying in 12th position in November, some fine league results, such as a 6-1 victory over Kings Lynn with 4 goals from Paul Joynson, moved Town up to 7th by the end of the year. In January 1989, Harry Rudge commented, "We have made the perfect start to 1989, 3 victories and impressive crowds. To remain as serious title contenders, we must now take on and beat teams of the calibre of Gloucester City." Town fans were reaching for the record books by February, after a run of 10 straight victories had moved Town up to 5th in the league, with goals flowing freely from Paul and Lee Joynson, Malcolm Hazelwood and Dean Spink, who had arrived at the Grove with John Morris. A 6-0 victory over Wellingborough in April moved Town up to 2nd position in the league, their highest league position ever, and the promise of an exciting end to John Morris's first season. In the end, Halesowen had probably left their move up the table a little late, but they'd given plenty of warning to other clubs for the next season, finishing in a very respectable 4th position. The season, however, was not yet over, and a 6-1 aggregate victory over Sutton Coldfield Town brought the Staffordshire Senior Cup to the Grove. In his first season at Halesowen, Dean Spink had scored 22 goals in 44 matches. In the close season, following several inquiries from league clubs, Dean made a dream move.
But there's a bit of a problem with the new signing. He's too busy to join the club at the moment because he's got to finish off his dad's window cleaning round. Striker Dean Spink has been signed from Halesowen Town for £30,000, but he was still cleaning windows in Solihull today after telling the club they'd have to wait. He had to keep his dad's window cleaning round going while he went on holiday.
And then went to the ground and I was just so thrilled.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the way home, like after signing, I just couldn't believe it.
But you got over it soon enough, because you turned around and said, "I'm sorry I can't come."
Oh yeah, I just, you know, like my dad was going away, have to do his work and that's it at the end of the day. I mean, you know, otherwise no money or nothing.
You can always come back, can't you? Yeah? I'll take the job out.
We asked Dean how he first heard of Aston Villa's interest.
John Morris phoned me up on the Friday night and said, "Dean, that Graham Taylor's interested in you. Would you come down Monday night?" And I thought straight away that it was Wolves. I didn't know who Graham Taylor was at the time. And he said, "Will you come down?" And, you know, I just spoke to him and we went from there then.
Unfortunately, Aston Villa did not prove a major success for yourself. What were your thoughts when you signed for Shrewsbury?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on loan quite a few times when I was at Villa, and Graham Taylor had me in, and I spoke to him. He said, "Shrewsbury Town are interested in you." It was first team football. It was ideal for me. I went down, spoke to Ace Hartford, and he said like he was interested in me, and I signed for Shrewsbury Town.
Are you now happy with your full-time living in football?
Yeah, I mean, it's great now. I mean, like, I had a bad, you know, like, first year at Shrewsbury, like, as a forward, being left out. Started this season, you know, I was left out again. Come in centre half the last 6 months, done well. So, you know, hopefully I've just signed a new contract, 2 years. So I'll just go from there.
And can you just outline your season with Shrewsbury Town?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my last 6 months, you know, I went to centre half, done really well. And at the end of the season, I won sponsors player, players player, you know, man of the match for the last game as well, Panini's player. So hopefully, you know, I just hope to do well next season.
With new concrete tiered terracing spanning the Old Horn Lane side of the ground, high expectations for the 1989-90 league season were soon brought to fruition by an impressive run of victories. By mid-September, Paul Joynson had scored in each of the first 9 games, totalling 14 goals in all, to help Halesowen gain top position in the Southern League Midland Division. With League Club scouts milling around the Grove, it wasn't long before Stuart Cash was following Dean Spink's footsteps to sign for a league club. In September 1989, Stuart Cash was transferred to Nottingham Forest. We asked Stuart how close he came to making a first-team appearance.
Quite close, but not close enough. I've been in the 14 a few times since I've been there, but as far as making the first team appearance, I've not actually made one yet.
Many people see Brian Clough as a very tough character. How do you get on with him?
Yeah, it is. It's very tough, yeah. But as long as you keep out of his way when he's a bad mood, that's as far as you can take him, really. As you see him on the television, that's typical of the way he is, like, really. Very arrogant, always drunk, but you just got to take him for what he is, really.
In your 2 years at the City Ground, you've had loan spells. What has kept you at Forest?
The first loan spell I went to Rotherham, and their full-back had broke his ankle, and I joined Rotherham on loan on the deadline day, and I just joined until the end of the season because their full-back, I say, broke his ankle, so I just joined just for cover, really. And the second season I went to Brentford, and they was looking for a left back, and I was there for 3 months. And I did okay there, but I just couldn't agree a fee like down there. The clubs agreed a fee, but you know, it's like moving to London, it's very expensive, and the money wasn't there, really. So I went to Shrewsbury this year, and he's got no money at Shrewsbury. So I went back to Forest to the end of the season, and hopefully I can move on this season somewhere.
By October, Lee Joynson had made his 500th appearance in Halesowen colours, and a 0-0 draw at Windy Wivenhoe had set up a Tuesday night FA Cup 4th qualifying round replay, with the winners drawn against 4th Division Cardiff City. 2 goals from Paul Joynson and 1 from Sean Flynn, now firmly establishing himself as a Halesowen favourite, helped Halesowen Town gain a 3-2 victory and set up an FA Cup first round tie on the 18th of November 1989 against Cardiff City at Ninian Park.
There's plenty of movement upfield for him, but taking his time. There he goes, looking for Hunter. Abraham heads down. Mark Kelly loses it to Hemans. He's going to shoot. Oh, and it just took a little skip in front of George Wood, but the former Scottish international well positioned to see that all the way. Hunter, good twist and turn, and then Leroy Hemans plays it in. There's the ball going across and headed away by Gibbons. Hazelwood, Halesowen's most expensive player at £1,000. Here he is again. Robbed this time by Griffith. Quick interception by Cardiff City's new forward. Coincidentally cost £60,000. Chandler gone in midfield to get into the game, and here is Chandler. And that's a penalty. One can understand Halesowen's frustration And in fact, Hazelwood is going to be booked for a remark I think he made to Mr Ashby. But Chandler seemed to burst in the penalty area then with one thought on a penalty, I felt. Hazelwood is booked. And Chris Pike it is to take the penalty when we are ready. Chris Pike then, a chance to add to his 8 goals already this season. Here he comes. 1-0 to Cardiff City. The big fella could see Clark making up his mind, and even before the ball almost left the spot, we knew Cardiff City were 1-0 up. But Halesowen will feel a little bit aggrieved at that penalty decision. So a free kick to Halesowen, taken by Penn for Flynn. Showed some good skill, Flynn. There he goes again, a lovely weave-in run. Chance here. Oh, and snap on the near post there by George Wood. Otherwise, Johnson was waiting, at least one of the Johnsons. Plenty of men in the penalty area. 5 Halesowen players in there, and Hunter lurking on the edge of the area. Goes short, and that's a poor return, all wasted. And Halesowen, noticing that Cardiff have left both Griffith and Chandler up, are having to bring reinforcements back in the form of David Price as the corner's taken into the near post. Comes to this side, Smith heads back, and it's in, is it? Oh, just wide! Inches wide then from Hazelwood. Going at 3 men forward. Here they come again through Lee Johnson. Good play, Hazelwood, the shot, and George Wood has to be acrobatic with that. And Halesowen fans, a fine body of them over on that side of the field. They'd like to see an equaliser from their favourites now, I'm sure. There's a cross, Wood is coming and just collects with his fingertips. Hemans picks it up, finds Hunter on the right. The Johnson twins wait in the middle, both of them. Rogerson between them, shooting chance maybe. There it goes, and it's straight into the hands of George Wood from Leroy Hemans. Hunter, that's a good layoff to Johnson. Can he keep it in? Just shadowed by Rogerson to Price. Flynn, strong header. Price is coming in. Price, Hunter, miscue, and that was an obvious chance there for Halesowen. No wonder they're holding their heads in their hands. The Cardiff City defence pulled this way and that then. Midway through this second half, it's still Cardiff City 1, Halesowen Town 0. That goal coming from the Chris Pike penalty, and slack marking and a shot coming in from Penn. He goes long looking for Steve Field, and the Halesowen substitute is in here with a shot and a chip. Dangerously close for Cardiff City. The former Halesowen Harrier player there hustled and bustled. Give Cardiff City a few seconds breathing space. Price. Oh, Price cuts in neatly and then gives it back to Hazelwood. Good cross. Oh, and Wood has to punch. And up. Clark's kick is a long one. Abraham. Daniel. There is the final whistle. It's Cardiff City 1, Halesowen Town 0. The only goal of the match, a penalty after 20 minutes by Chris Pike, his 9th goal of the season. Cardiff City just about merited this win in this first round FA Cup match at Ninian Park, but give credit to Halesowen Town from the Pisa Midlands League. They perform well, and they will remember this match, some of these players, for the rest of their lives.
Halesowen soon put the FA Cup disappointment behind them and continued to chase promotion from the Southern Midland League. In December of 1989, Paul Joinson netted his 300th goal for the Elts, and by February 1990 he had completed his 500th team appearance. His 100th Southern League goal came in April of the same year, in a season which saw him amass a total of 49 goals. By February of 1990, a 7-2 victory put Halesowen top of the league, a position they were to hold until the end of the season. Promotion to the Southern Premier League was confirmed on a tense evening at Spalding, with Halesowen racing into a 3-0 lead before weathering a tense Spalding fightback to run out 3-2 winners. Another victory in Halesowen's next match at Willenhall would take the league championship. Forward again, Stuart Edwards crosses, Paul Hunter heads down to Paul Joinson, he must score, and he does. 1-0 to Halesowen after 34 minutes. And there's the second goal for Halesowen. Paul Hunter from a Tim Langford cross after 65 minutes. That's 2-0 to Halesowen, and surely that must be the league championship wrapped up for them. That's it, the referee's blown the final whistle, it's all over, and Halesowen are the champions of the Southern Midland League. A fine 3-0 victory, 2 goals from Paul Joinson and 1 from Paul Hunter, the third goal coming after 75 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present this trophy to Halesowen. Thoroughly deserved. It's been worthy of it for the last 2 years, and now it's gone. I'm sure you'll be a credit to the Premier Division. Let me just say a word to the supporters. Supporters of Halesowen are the finest in the Pisa home club, and we look forward to having you in the Premier Division. Congratulations. It's a bounce, boys. Come on.
Town Football Club. Congratulations to Halesowen on winning the Pisa Midland Division.
In May of 1990, to mark 10-year service to the club, a joint testimonial was held for Mark Penn and the Joinson twins Lee and Paul between Halesowen Town and a full first team Aston Villa squad in front of 3,518 spectators. Although Aston Villa ran out 6-1 winners, it was Paul Joinson who gave Halesowen a 6th-minute lead following a cross from his brother Lee. The next day it was announced that Andy Pearce, Halesowen Town's 6'5" central defender, was to join Coventry City. Andy became the third Halesowen Town player to join a Football League First Division side in less than 12 months. We asked Andy if he expected to play First Division football so soon after signing for Coventry City.
Not really, it just, especially like when Terry Butcher took over, I thought that would be the end of it, like, you know, I thought I'd be moving on to another club, but he come along, he encouraged me, give me some extra training, which obviously done me the world of good, and then we had a few injuries and he threw me in, and luckily I've been able to stop there ever since.
Over the last 2 seasons, you've adapted to life in Division 1, but captaining Coventry City must have been a tremendous feeling.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, there's no better honour for your team than to captain it, like. Obviously, like, that's because Stuart Robson was injured, but still means that you're in the frame, like, so I was quite pleased, yeah.
You've played 50-odd games now for Coventry. Can you tell us of your favourite games and best players you've come up against?
Favourite games, when we beat the Villa 1-0 at home, I captained the side that day, so that was quite memorable, like, you know. My debut obviously at Leeds, and when we beat West Ham away, funnily enough, there was, I mean, that was not, you know, low in the league, but we had a good day, we played well, and things were bubbly for us at that time. Best player as well. Too many to mention really, all for different reasons. Rushy obviously because he never misses, same with Lineker. And you got people with speed like Wallace, good Jury, so you know, every week you come up against a great player.
During the summer of 1990, Halesowen Town embarked on a summer development programme costing over £100,000 to help meet the greater demands of the higher league status, just one step below the GM Vauxhall Conference. Commercial manager Ron Mosley commented, "We are rapidly climbing the rungs of football's league pyramid system, and our aim is to go through the BISA Premier and Conference grades to earn full Football League membership. Progress on the field must be matched by that off it if we are to realise our dreams. In line with playing achievements and elevated league standing, we are enhancing facilities largely through commercial ventures and fundraising efforts. Our average home match attendance last season was an incredible 1100 to 1200, therefore more and better amenities are needed. The close season improvements included a new boardroom and office complex, associated toilets and a refreshment kiosk next to the Harry Rudge stand, an 8-foot high perimeter fence to completely enclose the ground, upgrading and adding to the existing terracing to extend the existing 4,000 crowd capacity, emergency lighting in case of floodlight or ground supply failure, and pitch returfing and reseeding, and finally enlarging, refurbishing and redecorating the social club with allied fencing and vehicle parking. Social Club Secretary Paul Floud explains the progression made at the social club over the last 8 years.
Well, my involvement with the social club began some 6 years ago. At that time the building was just a basic shell. It was just there for supporters and players to go and have a drink after the game, and there was a few of the hardcore members who used to use the club on the night, but basically that's all it was. It was so basic, even the toilets were outside, and I mean that's not knocking anybody who was involved when the club was initially built, but obviously the football club was growing fast and there was a need for the social club to move with it. The club were in financial trouble, they weren't making any money, and a few younger members were elected onto the committee, and we decided that, you know, that it was time the club started moving. We were all very enthusiastic, we weren't making any money, and we decided that we'd have a go and try and build some extensions, try and build the trade up. It was self-sufficient in as much as the committee actually run the club themselves. We used to take it in turns to run the bar, clean the pipes, order the beer, even down to fetching the cigarettes and the crisps from the wholesalers. Anyway, we sat down and talked about it, and we decided that we would start what we called a 4-year plan. And the first event on that was to build the extension on the side. Now, bearing in mind we hadn't got a penny to our name, membership was very low. We went to Banks's Brewery and they offered to lend us the money, and we put the toilets up, we completely refurbished the club, and we also moved the bar. That cost somewhere in the region of £35,000. We were all pleased with the club afterwards, and suddenly we noticed that trade was starting to increase. We weren't just attracting people after a game just for a few drinks and then go somewhere else. We were finding people were joining and coming to stop all night. Anyway, some 18 months later we found we were making money, and we decided each time we went for it again. And we had the second extension on the side. We had a small top-up loan off Banksy's, and we found again the club was just going from strength to strength. At that time we found it increasingly difficult to run the club ourselves, with the pressures of work and involvement on the football side. One person behind the bar just wasn't sufficient, so we looked around and we'd heard rumours that one of our members was interested in taking over the job as steward, and we approached Ken Arnold, and he gratefully accepted the job, and that's the best move that the club has ever made.
Your involvement as a director goes back 4 years. What duties do you oversee?
Well, obviously as secretary of the social club I've become more and more involved on the football side. Many years ago as a supporter, and gradually you get more involved in the work that's done, and then I was presented with the privilege of being elected onto the board about 4 years ago now, and that was one of the best thrills of my life, to be involved with the club who I think so much about and who have been so successful over the last few years. I feel the most important job of all that I've got is the one of press officer. A club of our standing really needs as much press coverage as we possibly can get, and over the last 12 months I've built up quite a relationship with the local press, not just the sort of free papers that go around but also the bigger papers, and I'm in regular contact with them, giving them team news, fixture news, transfers, work on the ground and everything else, and I feel that we're getting the best coverage now that we've had for a long time, and obviously it keeps the supporters up to date, and it keeps us in the headlines.
In July 1990, it was confirmed that leading goalscorer Paul Joynson was to be transferred to Worcester City after seeking a fresh challenge. Twin brother Lee was to stay at the Grove but could not command a regular first-team spot, and he eventually moved to Redditch to team up again with brother Paul in the following season. As a further progression on the field during the summer of 1990, a youth team was formed under the leadership of former Vars captain John Woodhouse, assisted by Les Randall. We have seen the rise of Halesowen Town during the 1980s to reach the level of the Beezer Homes League Premier Division. The added responsibilities of running the club at this level has introduced many new faces to Halesowen. As well as continuing with our chronological sequence of action, we now aim to show you the day-to-day running of the club and the behind-the-scenes action that goes on before each kick-off. In September 1990, long-serving fullback Mark Penn made his 500th first-team appearance in Halesowen Town colours. In the same month, Halesowen keeper Tim Clark became the fourth player to move to a First Division club, when Coventry City manager John Sillett moved swiftly to sign him. As John Sillett himself said, "The whole setup at Halesowen impresses me, from John the manager right down to every committee member. It's a lovely little ground and it's been a real pleasure doing business with them." We asked Tim Clark to explain the step from Halesowen Town to professional football.
Period of time, you don't notice it. At first it's a bit drastic, but as you train with them, with obviously the pros, then you don't tend to notice it.
Were you disappointed in having to leave Coventry City to join Huddersfield?
Obviously at first, because I was signed under John Sillett, and when he got the sack I thought I might get a chance under a new manager, but when that chance didn't come along and I was sold without really being given a chance to prove what I could do, yeah, I was disappointed, but after this season and what's gone on at Huddersfield, then that disappointment was soon forgotten.
Can you tell us the difference between full-time training and training here at Halesowen Town?
I think the only difference is it's more intense. All we tend to do is we do more repetitive. There's no difference in what we do, it's just we do more of it. Obviously because we play more games, we've got to be fitter, stronger at our level of football than what amateur players have.
Manager John Morris was asked how he felt the club had progressed since his arrival and of his thoughts for the future.
That follows on from my last statement. I feel that over the years that I've been here, if you look and you see the progress that we've made off the pitch, and that obviously means that we've come a long way, and on the pitch, we now no longer play in the West Midland League. We play in a very, very high standard of football. So naturally, that progress is in the standard that we play. On top of that, we've got a second team now, which obviously is throwing up good young players, and we've also followed on with that by having a very, very successful youth side that is doing extremely well. That's progress, and as far as the club's concerned, we've come a very, very long way in a short period of time.
What are your thoughts about the lads who have made the step to league football, and do you feel we have any more potential at the club?
Well, I couldn't understand when I arrived here the success that you had, and nobody had ever broke into league football. That actually surprised me immensely. I knew that when I arrived, and by just adding players to the squad and changing the squad around, you're going to throw up good young players who've got a lot of ambition. Now, the club obviously was very ambitious. The support was phenomenal. That was going to raise the young lads to phenomenal heights, and that's how come we've had so much success with young players, or with players going through to league football, simply and purely because when they get out there, it actually lifts them. And we've always said about league football is that there's no real difference apart from fitness, and providing that you have the breaks, the natural talents is very negligible. And all that I know is that the Dean Spinks, Stuart Cash, Timmy Clark, Andy Pearce, and even Sean Flynn, 5 lads who've progressed into league football and doing very well and making a good living out of it, and deservedly so. But round the corner, as I said earlier, we've got 2 or 3 good lads in our youth side, and definitely 3 or 4 in the reserve side, pro clubs I'm looking at, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before possibly 1 or 2 move on to better things again.
A record league crowd of 2,507 watched Halesowen Town beat Worcester City by 2-0 at the start of the new 1990-1991 season. Following a steady start to the first league campaign in the Premier League, a 5-2 victory over Ruislip Manor put Halesowen Town back into the FA Cup first round once again. History was once more to be made as Halesowen were drawn at home against a Football League club for the very first time. Tranmere Rovers, then of Division 3, were to be the visitors to the Grove on the 17th of November 1990. On the Thursday evening before the game, with last-minute ground improvements ongoing, the excitement was already building up.
And supporters prepare the terraces for the 4,000-plus crowd that'll be shoehorned into the Grove. The players are being put through their final paces by manager John Morris. The Bate Homes Premier League side are no strangers to the FA Cup. This is the 5th successive year they've reached this stage of the competition, only to fall on every past occasion. It is, however, the first time they've enjoyed home advantage against a league side. Not that the Halesowen fans will pay any regard to the higher standing of visitors Tranmere Rovers.
The trouble is everybody keeps thinking we're going to beat them. I mean, I think the players are really a bit more realistic. Like, Tranmere are firm favourites in anybody's book, and any result we get will be a great bonus, and who knows. On Saturday there'll be 4 or 5 down-killing results, and we just might be one of them at the end of the day.
2 FA Vars final triumphs in the mid-80s have enhanced Halesowen's reputation as a good cup side. It's their league standing that remains top priority.
The cups are little bonuses. This is probably the biggest bonus of the lot, and obviously you can't get no bigger. But at the end of the day, the league is the priority, and what I want Halesowen deserve Vauxhall Conference. I just hope that I'm the guy to give it them, to be honest.
Halesowen's week of preparation began with a defeat against Walsall in the Birmingham Senior Cup. They intend ending it with a victory over league opposition.
With a view to the game against Tranmere, Roger Wood, as safety officer, was asked how the Taylor report had affected the club.
The Taylor report was a major report in terms of all football clubs, from Liverpool or Manchester United, top of Division 1, down to the bottom of the Football League, and also a knock-on into non-league. It's affected us not as greatly, obviously, as league clubs, because we're not in that category, but it has affected us in terms that we've had to step up on safety in the ground. We have to have more stewards on match days. We have to take a greater care of securing seating, making sure that there's segregation for spectators if necessary. It does play a bigger part in certain matches. If in the FA Cup, for instance, you draw a league side, your ground for that day becomes a designated league ground, i.e. Halesowen Town, when we played Tranmere on the 17th of November last year, became for that day the same as West Bromwich Albion Hawthorns, and everything that applies there applied to us on that day in terms of policing, colour coding for emergency exits, segregation for crowd, separate amenities in terms of canteen, toilet facilities, etc. Literally everything becomes the same as a designated league ground. So obviously there's times when it becomes more important than at ordinary league matches. Although it has made us more aware, we have to have the standing area beyond the goal, the Old Hall Lane stand, had to become registered with the local authority. They have to inspect it once a year. Any changes we wish to make in terms of improving it, we have to let the council know, particularly because of the safety aspect. There's a safety certificate issued for the number of people that can use the stand. I have to keep a record of every home game as to how many people have actually had in the stand, etc. That came about as a concept of the Taylor report. Things had to be registered more, more records kept, more detailed, and obviously the big factor is the segregation in terms of making sure that people are properly stewarded, they got proper areas to go in the ground, and they're not, sort of, there's problems if necessary keeping them apart. Obviously on normal match days, there's not a lot of travelling support, but however big or however small, it has to be marshalled to make sure that we don't have any problems. And touch wood, as of yet, we've not done that. You know, everything's gone according to plan, and we employ our own stewards, and we do look to conform as best as we can with the Taylor report and with any other regulations that the council or police may bring in from time to time. But of course also, as in all these aspects, there is a financial cost. You know, you can't just bring in extra this and extra that without the finance aspect of it. So we have to do it all within the constraints that we've got. But I am happy to say that police are very pleased that we always do try to meet whatever they ask for whatever reason.
On the big day, brave Halesowen bowed out of the FA Cup after forcing 3rd Division Tranmere to come from behind to claim a hard-fought victory.
Halesowen of the Beazer Homes Premier League went ahead through Sean Flynn after just 5 minutes. John Morrissey equalised 9 minutes later, and Jim Steele made it 2-1 for Tranmere in the second half.
Chief Steward Robert Mosley was asked about his role on match day and how this varied for big matches such as Tranmere.
About an hour before the game, they're put it to their posts, i.e. we've got normally 2 or 3 in the tunnel, on the stands, taking tickets. Generally, there's not a great deal of problems on a normal league match. A fair example of what real stewarding is like was when we played Tranmere, when we enrolled about 40 stewards incorporated with the police. Prior to the match, we had briefings with the police and the safety officers, making sure that everybody knew exactly what they were doing, where they got to go, etc. Keeping the crowd segregated. It was a lot more arduous job, trying to keep on top of things, making sure there was no problems, no crowd spillage onto the pitch. But generally, with the aid of the police, it went very well indeed.
In November 1990, Robert Shilvock followed Malcolm Hazelwood's example and returned to his roots at Halesowen after a spell with Kidderminster Harriers, signing for a new club record fee of £4,000.